Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right into something truly epic. We're traveling back in time to explore what was, honestly, probably the greatest ancient university on planet Earth. Long before places like Oxford or Cambridge even existed, there was a hub that stood as the absolute pinnacle of human intellectual achievement. We're talking about a sprawling metropolis of the mind, a place of unparalleled grandeur that tragically met a really devastating end.
I mean, just imagine this for a second. What actually happens when 9 million ancient, painstakingly handwritten books go up in flames? It's a question that forces us to confront not just a deep historical mystery, but a tragedy of sheer, unimaginable scale. How did a world so incredibly rich in knowledge come to be in the first place? And how on earth was it wiped off the physical map? Okay, let's dive into this. Today, Nalanda stands as these quiet, sun-baked brick ruins in present-day Bihar, India. But actually, scratch that. I want you to mentally transport yourself completely away from these quiet ruins. Picture this site at a golden sunrise centuries ago. It's a thriving, bustling campus, alive with the sounds of intense debate, rhythmic chanting, and the scratching of quills. Part 1. The Ancient Marvel. A Metropolis of the Mind.
So founded way back in the 5th century under the Gupta Empire, likely under Emperor Kumaragupta I, Nalanda basically laid the groundwork for the entire concept of a residential university. To really wrap your head around its grandeur, just look at this number, 14. This campus sprawled across 14 massive hectares. It was architecturally stunning, featuring 8 separate compounds and 10 towering temples. Imagine just strolling through a campus with serene meditation halls, beautiful lakes, lush parks, and these highly sophisticated drainage systems. The whole place was perfectly designed to foster absolute peace and deep, deep concentration. And within that massive footprint, 10,000 students. Let that sink in. In the university's heyday, you literally had 10,000 international scholars living and studying together in dedicated dormitories. This was practically unheard of in the ancient world. It was a fully functional, residential academic city. And to guide all those eager minds, Nalanda housed an astounding 2,000 professors. When you stop and think about the sheer magnitude of this campus life, we're talking 12,000 intellectuals eating, sleeping, debating, and studying together in one centralized location. It absolutely fills you with awe. The logistical and intellectual scale is it's staggering.
Part 2. A Convergence of Global Scholars. Minds from across the ancient world.
So who exactly were these people? Well, Nalanda was far from some isolated, quiet monastery. It was a massive global magnet for rigorous academic pursuit. Now, a super common myth is that Nalanda was strictly a religious center, but as this brilliantly illustrates, that couldn't be further from the truth. While Mahayana Buddhism was definitely a major focus, this was a deeply diverse and secular academic environment. Students were mastering logic and epistemology, they were studying anatomy and Ayurvedic medicine, calculating planetary motions in astronomy and math, and rigorously debating Sanskrit grammar. It was a true multidisciplinary liberal arts education, literally centuries ahead of its time. To get this world-class education, these scholars journeyed massive, highly dangerous distances across mountains, deserts, and oceans. From accounts by famous Chinese pilgrims like Xuanzang, we know students traveled from China, Tibet, Persia, Greece, Korea, and Japan. And once they finally arrived, they faced notoriously rigorous entrance exams. Only a tiny fraction of applicants were actually admitted, which ensured that Nalanda remained a truly elite global intellectual network. Part 3. The Dharmaganja, the Mart of Religion. Now, what's really interesting about this is the crown jewel of Nalanda, the legendary library complex known as the Dharmaganja. The name loosely translates to the Mart of Religion or Piety Mart. But listen, this wasn't just a single room with a couple of dusty scrolls. This was a monumental complex of human knowledge, completely unmatched anywhere in the ancient world. The Dharmaganja was actually made up of 3 massive, distinct buildings: the Ratnodadi, the Ratnaranjaka, and the absolute showstopper, the Ratnasagara, or the Ocean of Jewels. This place was an architectural wonder. The Ratnasagara towered an unbelievable 9 stories high. Just imagine that, a 9-story ancient skyscraper solely dedicated to housing the world's most sacred and rare manuscripts on philosophy, science, and the cosmos. Which brings us right back to this massive figure, 9 million. It's so easy to just hear a big number and move on, but try to humanize it for a second.
That 9 million represents generations of monks, sitting in quiet rooms over hundreds of years, painstakingly hand-copying texts onto palm leaves. It was the accumulated wisdom of human anatomy, advanced mathematics, literature, and profound spiritual awakening all living right there within those towering walls.
Part 4. The Tragic Erasure. The Fall of Nalanda.
Well, history is rarely a straight line of progress. From the bright, bustling enlightenment of Nalanda's golden age, we unfortunately have to shift our focus to ash and charcoal. You see, the fall of Nalanda wasn't just one random event. The institution was actually already becoming quite vulnerable. Funding and political support from local dynasties were shifting, and North India was going through some severe political upheaval. Then, around the 1190s, during a period of Turkic military expansion, a general named Bakhtiar Khilji led a devastating raid on the region. And while Nalanda was already weakened by shifting times, this highly violent raid delivered a fatal, crushing blow. So the crucial point here is the sheer scale of the destruction that followed. Historical and Tibetan accounts paint a truly harrowing picture. It's said that the great libraries, those incredible multi-story buildings housing the 9 million manuscripts we just talked about, were set ablaze. The fire was so vast, fueled by literally centuries of dry palm leaves and wooden structures, that it reportedly burned for months. Smoke hung like a dark pall over the low hills for days on end. It was a profound, catastrophic loss to global history.
Part 5. A Legacy from the Ashes. Knowledge Dispersed. Let's move on and see how this builds, because the story of Nalanda doesn't entirely end in ashes. While the physical grandeur of the university, those magnificent 9-story buildings, the serene meditation halls, was tragically razed and lost to time, the legacy actually endured. Knowledge is incredibly adaptable. Survivors of the attack, dedicated monks and scholars, gathered whatever they could. They fled across the treacherous Himalayas, carrying sacred texts, complex mathematical formulas, and deeply refined methods of logic in their hands and, importantly, in their memories. They took them to Tibet, Nepal, and China, where that knowledge took root, flourished, and evolved.
Which leaves us with this final thought for today's explainer. If a monumental 14-hectare campus burns to the ground, but its hard-won wisdom is carried away in the minds and surviving scrolls of its scholars, can that knowledge ever truly be destroyed? The physical Nalanda fell, for sure, but its spirit of rigorous, global learning absolutely shaped the intellectual traditions of Asia for centuries to come. Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating piece of human history with me. Take this curiosity with you and keep learning.